Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Today's story is one that will move your heart and remind you of the power of kindness. Imagine this: a struggling black man, barely making ends meet, stumbles upon a lost little boy who can't find his way home. Out of compassion, he decides to help the child, not knowing that one simple act of kindness will change his life forever. Stay tuned until the end, because what happens later, when a luxury car suddenly pulls up at his house, will leave you speechless. Before we begin, don't forget to drop in the comments where you're watching from, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you never miss powerful life stories like this one. Marcus Johnson was no stranger to hardship. At 35, his life had been a long road of challenges, detours, and disappointments. He lived in a tiny run-down one-room apartment on the far edge of the city, where cracked paint peeled off the walls and the sound of leaky pipes dripped through the silence of the night. Rent was overdue again, and the landlord had left a final notice slipped under his door that morning. Marcus worked hard, harder than most people would ever know. During the day, he hauled crates at a warehouse, and at night, he picked up shifts washing dishes at a small diner. His hands were calloused, his back ached constantly, and his shoes were worn thin from walking to jobs he couldn't afford bus fare to reach. But still, the money never seemed to stretch far enough. It wasn't that Marcus was lazy or irresponsible. Life just hadn't given him the breaks that others seemed to get so easily. His father had passed away when he was just a boy, leaving his mother to raise him and his younger sister alone. She did her best, but poverty was like a heavy chain that refused to break, dragging them down no matter how hard they tried to climb. Now, as an adult, Marcus carried that same chain. There were days he wondered if he would ever escape it. Yet, despite the weight on his shoulders, he never allowed bitterness to consume him. People in his neighborhood knew him as a quiet, respectful man, the kind who would lend a hand to an elderly neighbor or give his last dollar to buy food for a hungry child. That evening, after finishing his shift at the diner, Marcus walked home under the dim orange glow of the streetlights. The city was alive with its usual chaos: cars honking, music blasting from passing vehicles, and the chatter of people heading home from late-night activities. He adjusted the strap of his old backpack, which carried a few leftovers from the diner, scraps that would serve as his dinner. As he trudged down the sidewalk, exhaustion weighed on him. His mind was filled with worries. How would he pay the rent? Would the landlord finally throw him out? And what about the electric bill, already threatening to cut him off any day now? But as Marcus approached the corner near an abandoned storefront, he noticed something unusual. A small figure stood alone in the shadows, unmoving. At first, he thought it was just another person waiting for a bus that would never come. But as he drew closer, he realized it was a child, a little boy, no older than 6 or 7. The boy's clothes were clean but rumpled, his small backpack hanging loosely on his shoulder. Tears streaked down his cheeks, and his tiny hands fidgeted nervously. His wide eyes darted around, filled with fear and confusion. Marcus slowed his steps. Something stirred in him instantly: concern, empathy, and recognition. That little boy reminded him of himself, years ago, lost and scared after his father's funeral when nothing in life seemed safe anymore. Kneeling down to the boy's level, Marcus spoke softly. "Hey, little man, are you okay? What are you doing out here all by yourself?" The boy sniffled, wiping his nose on his sleeve. I can't find my house. I don't know where my mom is." Marcus felt his chest tighten. A lost child, alone on the streets at night? Anything could have happened to him. Kidnappers, cars, strangers with bad intentions. The thought made his blood run cold. He took a deep breath, glancing around. No one else seemed to notice, or maybe they just didn't care. People walked past quickly, eyes down, too wrapped up in their own lives to stop. But Marcus couldn't ignore it. He never could. "Don't worry," Marcus said gently, his voice calm and reassuring. "We'll figure this out together. You're not alone anymore." The boy looked at him with hopeful, watery eyes, as if clinging to the first sign of safety he'd found all night. Marcus didn't know it then, but this decision, this one act of kindness, would change his life forever. Marcus extended his hand to the boy, offering the kind of comfort that only a gentle touch could give. The boy hesitated for a moment, looking at Marcus with eyes that carried both fear and hope, then slowly slipped his small hand into Marcus's rough, work-worn palm. "What's your name, buddy?" Marcus asked softly. The boy sniffled again, his voice trembling. "Ethan." "All right, Ethan. My name's Marcus," he said with a warm smile. "Now tell me, do you remember where you live? Maybe the street, or what your house looks like?" Ethan shook his head, his eyes filling with fresh tears. I don't know. I was walking with my mom, and then I saw a dog across the street, and when I turned back, she was gone. I tried to find her, but I got lost." Marcus's heart ached. He could picture the panic in the boy's mother's heart right now. Somewhere out there, a woman was desperately searching for her child, terrified of the dangers that lurked in the night. "Hey, it's okay," Marcus said reassuringly. "We'll get you home. I promise." But the truth was, he had no idea where to start. Marcus wasn't exactly a man with resources. He didn't even own a working phone. His old one had been disconnected months ago because he couldn't pay the bill. Calling the police might have been the obvious answer, but Marcus had grown up seeing how slow and dismissive they could be, especially in poor neighborhoods. And besides, Ethan already trusted him. Marcus didn't want to hand him over to strangers in uniforms that might scare him even more. So, Marcus made a decision. He would find Ethan's home himself. He stood up, still holding the boy's hand. "Come on, little man. Let's walk. Maybe we'll see something familiar to you." The streets were quieter now, though an occasional car sped past, headlights cutting through the night. Marcus guided Ethan gently, asking questions along the way. "Do you remember the color of your house? Or maybe what's nearby? A park, a store, anything like that?" Ethan's brows furrowed as he thought hard. "There's a tree in front, and a red mailbox. And my window has Spider-Man stickers on it." Marcus chuckled softly despite the seriousness of the situation. "Spider-Man, huh? That's a good clue. We'll find it." For the next hour, Marcus and Ethan walked block after block. They peeked down streets, past rows of houses, and asked a few strangers if they had seen a woman searching for her child. Most people shrugged and kept moving. Others didn't even bother to respond. Ethan grew tired, his steps dragging as his small legs struggled to keep up. Marcus noticed immediately. Without hesitation, he crouched down. "Hop on, little man. I'll carry you for a while." Ethan's face lit up with relief. He climbed onto Marcus's back, wrapping his arms around his neck. Marcus rose to his feet again, his tired body screaming in protest. His back ached from the warehouse shifts, and his legs felt like lead, but he pushed on. He couldn't let this boy down. As they walked, Ethan rested his head on Marcus's shoulder, his soft voice whispering, "Thank you, Marcus, for helping me." Marcus swallowed hard. That simple "thank you" hit him deeper than he expected. In a world where he often felt invisible, unappreciated, and overlooked, hearing those words from a child filled him with a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. "Anytime, kid," Marcus murmured. "Anytime." And so, the two unlikely companions, a struggling man and a lost boy, continued their search together. Neither of them knew how long it would take, or what awaited them at the end of the night. But Marcus had no idea that this journey wasn't just about helping Ethan find his way home. It was also about leading himself toward a destiny he could never have imagined. The night stretched on as Marcus carried Ethan through the streets. Every corner looked the same to the boy, every block lined with houses and dim streetlights blending into one endless maze. Marcus tried different approaches. He pointed at buildings, asking, "Does that look familiar?" Or, "Do you remember passing this place with your mom?" But Ethan always shook his head, his little face clouded with confusion. They stopped at a small corner store, still open late. Marcus gently placed Ethan on his feet and walked inside, the boy clinging tightly to his leg. The cashier, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, looked up. "Ma'am," Marcus began politely, "have you heard about anyone looking for a lost child tonight? Maybe someone came by asking." The woman frowned and shook her head. "No, I haven't. Sorry." "Poor thing," she added, glancing at Ethan with sympathy. "You should call the police." Marcus gave a small nod, but didn't explain his lack of a phone. "Thank you," he said, and they left. Back outside, Ethan tugged Marcus's sleeve. "Marcus, what if I never find my mom again?" Marcus crouched down and placed his hands on the boy's small shoulders. "Hey, don't say that. We're going to find her. I promise you. Sometimes it just takes a little longer, but we'll get there." Something about Marcus's voice gave Ethan hope. He nodded, wiped his tears, and held Marcus's hand tighter. They kept moving. Hours slipped away. Marcus's legs screamed for rest, but he kept going, guided only by instinct and determination. Finally, as they turned down a quieter street lined with houses that had small yards, Ethan's eyes lit up. He tugged hard on Marcus's hand. "Wait. This looks like it. The tree, the big tree." Marcus followed his finger. Sure enough, a tall oak tree stood in front of a house with a red mailbox at the curb. Ethan gasped and ran forward, pointing at the window. "Look, that's my room, the Spider-Man stickers." Marcus's chest flooded with relief. "We found it," he murmured with a smile. Before Marcus could even knock, the front door flew open. A frantic woman ran out, her face pale with worry, her hair messy as though she'd been pulling at it in desperation. "Ethan!" she screamed, racing down the steps. "Mom!" Ethan cried, sprinting into her arms. The reunion was raw and emotional. She fell to her knees, hugging her son so tightly as if she'd never let go again. Tears streamed down her face as she kissed his forehead again and again. Marcus stepped back, giving them space, a small smile on his lips. Watching them together filled him with peace. He knew what it was to lose someone precious, and seeing this mother and son reunited reminded him of the things that really mattered. "Where were you?" she sobbed into Ethan's hair. "I was so scared. I looked everywhere, I thought." "I got lost," Ethan explained, pulling back slightly. "But Marcus helped me, Mom. He took care of me." The woman turned, her eyes landing on Marcus for the first time. She saw the exhaustion in his face, the worn clothes, the tired slump of his shoulders. But more than that, she saw the kindness in his eyes. "Oh, sir, thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "You don't know what you've done for me tonight. I thought I'd lost my baby forever." Marcus shook his head modestly. "No need to thank me. I just did what anyone would have done." But deep down, he knew not everyone would have stopped. He had seen too many people pass by without even noticing Ethan. The woman insisted, "Please come in, let me get you something, food, water, anything." Marcus smiled faintly and shook his head. "That's kind, but I should be going." I've got to get home. I'm just glad he's safe now." He gave Ethan one last smile and a pat on the head. "Be good, little man. Stay close to your mom, all right?" Ethan hugged Marcus suddenly, his small arms wrapping tightly around his waist. "Thank you, Marcus. You're my hero." Those words stayed with Marcus as he walked back into the night, his own empty stomach forgotten for the moment. Back in his one-room apartment, Marcus dropped onto his worn mattress with a sigh. The silence of the room was heavy, broken only by the hum of the old refrigerator that barely kept things cool. The leftover scraps from the diner sat untouched on the table. Marcus's body was exhausted, but his mind was restless. The landlord's final notice lay on the counter, reminding him of the storm he still faced. Rent overdue. Bills unpaid. The fridge nearly empty. Helping Ethan had brought him peace, but it didn't change his reality. Marcus rubbed his temples, whispering a prayer he wasn't even sure anyone heard anymore. "Lord, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Just give me strength." Despite the weight of his troubles, he didn't regret what he'd done. He couldn't imagine walking past that boy and leaving him to danger. Still, a part of him wondered, who was there to help him? Sleep finally claimed him, though it was restless. Days passed. Marcus returned to his routine of hard labor and long hours. Life pressed down on him as usual, but in quiet moments, he thought of Ethan's hug, of the boy calling him a hero. It was a memory he clung to when everything else seemed dark. It was a late afternoon, about a week after that night. Marcus was sitting on the front steps of his apartment building, his shirt damp with sweat after walking home from work. He was lost in thought, staring at the cracked pavement, when the sound of a car engine broke the stillness. But this wasn't just any car. The sleek shine of polished black paint, the gleam of chrome, and the quiet purr of an expensive engine made Marcus blink in disbelief. A luxury car, the kind he had only ever seen in magazines or parked outside hotels far beyond his world, was pulling up in front of his building. Neighbors peered from windows, curious. Cars like that didn't belong in streets like these. The door opened, and out stepped a sharply dressed man in a tailored suit. He looked around until his eyes landed on Marcus. "Mr. Johnson?" the man asked politely. Marcus hesitated, unsure. Yeah, that's me." The man smiled. "I've been asked to bring you somewhere. Someone would like to see you." Marcus blinked, confused. "Who?" Before the man could answer, the back door of the car opened. To Marcus's astonishment, Ethan jumped out, his little face beaming with joy. "Marcus!" he shouted, running toward him. Marcus's heart leapt as Ethan wrapped his arms around him again. Behind him stepped Ethan's mother, now dressed neatly but her gratitude no less visible in her eyes. "Marcus," Ethan's mother said warmly, "I had to find you. You disappeared that night before I could properly thank you. My name is Angela Carter." She gestured toward the car. "My husband and I have been looking for you ever since. We owe you more than words can ever repay. You saved my son's life." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, scratching the back of his neck. "I didn't do it for a reward. I just wanted to make sure he was safe." Angela smiled softly. "And that's exactly why we want to help you. Please, come with us." Before Marcus could protest, Ethan grabbed his hand. "Come on, Marcus. Please." Reluctantly, Marcus climbed into the luxury car, feeling completely out of place on the soft leather seats. They drove across the city to a grand house that looked like something from another world, wide lawns, tall windows, and a gate that opened automatically. Inside, Marcus was overwhelmed. The home was filled with light, art, and warmth. Angela introduced him to her husband, a successful businessman who shook Marcus's hand firmly. "Sir," the man said sincerely, "you protected what's most precious to us. I can never repay that, but I'd like to try. Tell me, what do you need most right now?" Marcus hesitated, embarrassed to admit his struggles. But Angela had already noticed his worn clothes, his tired eyes, and the humility in his voice. "You don't have to be ashamed," she said gently. "Let us help you. You gave us back our son." In the days that followed, Marcus's life changed. The Carters helped him clear his debts, find better work, and even offered him a position with their company where his hard work and integrity could shine. But more than money or comfort, Marcus gained something deeper, a new family that saw his worth, a chance to rebuild his life, and proof that kindness never goes unnoticed. And it had all begun on a quiet night, when a struggling man stopped to help a lost little boy find his way home.